Hi, folks. Thank you for joining us here on Public Affairs. I'm your host. My name is John Peterson. We are talking to the mayor of Marion, Mr. Scott Schertzer, today, and we're going to be going over the things that go on in the mayor's office and municipal government. And we learn a lot of things that's going on that's actually helping us in the city. We learn that from the mayor. And so, Mr. Schertzer, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much for being with us. And we always learn things from you, and we're looking forward to finding out some of those things today. So welcome.
Well, thank you. It's always good to be here with you at TV 39 and Public Affairs to talk about some of the issues that are taking place, not only in the mayor's office, but we also talk a lot about things that are going on city council. Some of the infrastructure projects that are wrapping up, we'll get into those in a moment. But we'll dig in, we'll roll our sleeves up, and we'll let your viewers know what's going on in your hometown.
Yeah, very well put, very well put. So I know that this is November 2023, and there's a leaf collection work going on, and people at home would probably want to know how long is this going to last and whatever. So can you bring us up to date on leaf collection 2023?
Yeah, this is the time of the year where the leaves start to fall, and we go around and we pick up those leaves. Do you remember back when you were a kid, you used to rake those leaves up to the street and you'd set them on fire, and there's this nice smoky smell in your community? Well, you can't do that in the city anymore. So what we do is we started a leaf collection program way back in the 1980s. It's a very popular program. We will be ending the the leaf collection on December the 8th. That is a Friday. And what we ask you to do is rake your leaves to the curb line. But please don't put them in the curb, because when it rains, like it sometimes does in the fall, those leaves will go down to the catch basin. They'll get matted on top of that catch basin, and then the drainage on your street will not work appropriately. Mm-hmm. If you do not have a curb on your street, just rake them to the edge of what we'll call the berm, because most of our city streets that don't have curbs, they have a little bit of a berm. And then our crews will come around with these big vacuums, and we'll suck up those leaves, and we'll do that, and we'll wrap it up Friday, December the 8th. But please remember this. Just because I'm telling you Friday, December the 8th, doesn't mean that we are completely done. We understand that sometimes that you don't get your leaves raked down to the curb before then. We will still have one truck going through the city after that to make sure that we get everything. We need to get them all collected before the snow and ice come. And believe it or not, I hate to mention it, snow and ice is on its way. If you do not want to wait on the city to come by and pick up your leaves, it's the same thing with the yard collection. You, as a citizen, can take them to Outdoor Resource Supply on Barks Road, 560 Barks Road, and you can drop them off there at no charge to you if you are a city resident. So this is free to city residents only, and they may ask for proof of residency, your driver's license, an ID card, or even a city utility bill. That's a deal that we have with Outdoor Resource Supply, that you can take it out there if you don't want to wait on us. Otherwise, you'll have to wait on our vac trucks to come around to your neighborhood. I know I've had to rake my yard at least 4 times this year already. I hope I'm done. But usually a day or two after the city comes along, I wake up in the morning before I go to work, and the leaves are magically disappeared. So that's leaf collection for this year. Please keep them out of the gutter, and please rake your leaves to the edge of the street.
Very good. Very good. So the next question I want to ask is, here we are nearing the end of looking forward to Thanksgiving here at the end of November 2023, and the 2024 budget for Marion Municipality. I know that work has been going on for quite a while, but perhaps the average individual doesn't understand the process of preparing that budget. I know that your term is ending in December, and a new mayor will be beginning in January. However, the work to prepare the budget up to this point has been under your watchful care. And can you help us understand the process of the budget and where it's at right now?
Yeah, absolutely. In the city of Marion, and I don't know how other cities do it, but as long as I've been on city council and as long as I have been mayor, it's a collaborative effort between the mayor's administration and the city auditor's office. What the department heads do, whether you're a police chief, a fire chief, the director of the parks department, what they do is they put into the next year's budget the operating expenses. What does it cost to operate that department? And that means anything from service contracts that a department might have, to fuel, to capital rolling stock improvements that they need. That's all put in by the director. And then the city auditor does what they call position-based budgeting. And that is the cost of each individual employee within that particular department. The reason that the auditor's office is involved in this is because payroll comes out of the city auditor's office. So they know how much employee makes an hour. They know what the wages are if they're a salaried employee, and they know what the benefits are. We were fortunate enough that we found out just about 2 weeks ago that the cost of next year's health care is only going to be about 5%, actually just under 5%. And that's really good. So the auditor will build that into next year's salaries and benefits for each employee within each department. And then a tabulation is made on what it costs to run each department based on what the department heads have done and what the auditor has done with each position within that department. And then that budget is formatted to go on to city council. Oftentimes, city council members will have a question. For example, why are the salaries and benefits up in this department? And then it's up to my responsibility to tell the council that we've added a new employee, and so that's going to increase the cost of salary and benefits. We've added new police officers, so that's going to be a higher compared to last year when you tabulate the total cost of salaries and benefits within a particular department. And then council takes a look at that because they are the appropriators of all tax dollars being spent by the administration. I cannot spend money unless the city council appropriates that money, essentially allowing us to spend that money, and we tell them how it's going to be spent. Our budget is on a calendar year. The federal government uses a different calendar. The state government uses a different calendar. But our budget starts on January 1st of 2024. So it's our job to prepare that budget to go to council. But when it's voted on January 1st, I'm gone, and some new council members will be new. So the new council members and the new mayor are really going to have to understand what's in the 2024 budget, because a new mayor might want to change some things, and that first day is the time to do it. Or they could make amendments to the budget. We pass a budget, but then we also have what we call an amended budget. A new mayor can make amendments with the approval of council to change things in the budget early on in the budget cycle.
You know, as I was sitting here listening to you describe that, number one, is very, very thorough, but also it requires a lot of people and the input from a significant number of people in order to arrive at a budget.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. It is a collaborative effort. Not one person can do it on their own. We've never done it that way. I hope it continues. It's been a very smooth operation in my tenure as a councilman and also in my time as the mayor of the city of Marion.
Well, thank you very much for that. We often talk here monthly about the new city jobs that are available. Are there any new ones?
Yeah, as always, I don't think anything's changed the past few months, but we are always looking for Marion area transit drivers. These positions can be part-time, they can be full-time, depending on what your needs are. They usually start out about $13.50 an hour, and that's the probationary period. You get through that, and it goes up dramatically. In Marion Area Transit, that is a unionized department, so you would be a member of the AFSCME collective bargaining union, and there are benefits if you're a full-time bus driver. You don't need a commercial driver's license with a passenger endorsement, but that is basically going to help you if you do have one. We'll hire you on a New York Minute if you have a CDL with a passenger endorsement. But not all of our buses require the CDL license. We're always looking for Marion Area Transit full-time and part-time bus drivers. Also, we have a transportation program within our senior department as well. Many of you may know our Senior Citizen Center is out on 309 East, sometimes referred to as Harding Highway East, right across the street from the River Valley Youth Baseball complex that they have. And we have a van transportation program out there. You have to be age and otherwise eligible to be able to use that particular transportation program. But we have van drivers that take seniors to doctor's appointments, shopping, etc., and etc. That is a very popular senior program in the Marion County area, and we're always looking for van drivers. You do not need a CDL, but we do ask that you have a valid driver's license with a good driving record. And we have some great senior van drivers out there. And again, these are part-time positions. They're not full-time. We have about 4 or 5 gentlemen, and I believe they're all gentlemen at this point in time, that do a fabulous job of transporting our seniors and getting them to the places that they need to be.
Well, very good. So here we are late November, and there's snow coming our way, inevitably here before too long. So from your perspective, are we prepared for winter?
Yeah, this is the time of year that we always talk about preparing for snow and ice. And now we're starting to get our dump trucks and our pickup trucks with plows. We're starting to get those all ready to go for snow and ice. And we are ready to roll if the snow and ice does come. I can tell you this, we have more salt on stock than we have ever had before. We actually, and I think I touched on this a month or two ago, we had to build a temporary salt storage shed to continue to house the extra salt that we have. Now, we buy our salt from the Ohio Department of Transportation. We estimate every year how much salt that we think we'll need. And we look back at the past 3 years to make that determination. We've had pretty light winters the past 3 years, so we haven't used a lot of our salt allocation. When we buy it from ODOT, we have to buy a minimum and a maximum amount. So we have to know, and in the past couple years, because we haven't used that much, we have an overabundance of salt in our sheds right now. We're ready for snow and ice. I hope you're ready too.
So the Prospect Street overpass has not been completed, and so I'm sorry. A lot of people would like to know, where is that construction phase at here in November 2023?
Yeah, look, there's no doubt they are way behind schedule. The original completion date for the Prospect Street overpass was supposed to be around September the 12th of this year. They ran into some supply chain issues, not being able to get the right parts they needed and pieces they needed to do this overpass rebuild. They've gotten those in now, and they're working furiously to get the Prospect Street overpass done. I'd like to tell you it's going to be done in 2023, but sometimes I look up there, I know they're getting close. They were pouring concrete the other day, but they're going to get done as soon as they can because they need to move over to the State Street overpass. I wish I had a date to tell you exactly when they expect to be done, But I do want to remind you that this is an Ohio Department of Transportation project. We are just really the recipients of this infrastructure investment from the state of Ohio, and they will do the same or similar thing that they've done on Prospect Street on State Street. So they hope to get started on the State Street overpass sometime in the spring of next year. We may see them dismantling the State Street overpass if the weather this winter permits them to do so. But if they can get started in time, and if they can get the equipment they need, and if they can get the natural resources they need, so to speak, they'll get the State Street overpass done before the end of next year. But not just to mention the State Street and Prospect Street overpasses, we're wrapping up all of our infrastructure projects right now. I just drove down George Street. That was a major sewer replacement project, and they're all done with it. It's got curbs, it's got gutters, new driveway approaches, and new sidewalks. So that project is pretty much done. I'd say about 95% done. They may have a couple of small things to do, but they are going to get started on next year's sewer project if weather permits in the wintertime, because we're going to be doing sewer projects probably for the next 20 years.
Wow. So I have sat here for 16 years now and listened to you answer my questions and so forth, and I just want to take a moment and say the thoroughness of your answers I very much appreciate. But now, so here you are nearing the end of a term, and I'm just kind of curious from your own perspective here, what were your biggest challenges during those 16 years?
Well, now that I'm coming to the end of my tenure as mayor, choosing not to run for re-election for a fifth term, it's nice to go out this way as opposed to losing an election. You go out on your own terms. But reflecting back over the past 16 years, I can tell you there have been a couple of challenges. And when I mention these challenges to you, understand that they were not a result of what anybody locally did. These were national issues that came all the way down to the local level. For example, in my first term of office, we had the Great Recession. That wasn't because of what anybody in Marion, Ohio did. It was a national recession. And it's 6 months into my first year, in my first term, the bottom just dropped out. We saw unemployment rate plummet. Okay? And when people are not working in our community, we're not generating the revenue that we need to do the services that our citizens require. This was an unusual recession. We've all lived through recessions before, but this was one that left a lot of our housing stock abandoned and deserted. Because the interest rates were so high, because there were balloon payments, people were walking away from their mortgages. They were walking away from houses. And this lasted much longer than anybody thought. I would say the Great Recession not only impacted my first term, but there is no doubt that it impacted my second term as well. And as we started off our second term in office together, we ran into another national epidemic, and that was the opioid crisis that infected our entire country. We're still grappling with that opioid crisis right now. We're dealing with fentanyl, not just in Marion, but in every community across the state and across this country. We are doing a better job of understanding how opioids have infected our communities, but we still have a long way to go. There have been lawsuits against the pharmaceutical companies that have produced these opioids that are being able to return some of those monies in that lawsuit back to local communities like Marion. And yes, we have been a recipient of dollars from those lawsuits against the pharmaceutical companies. It has been my mission to take those dollars and reinvest them back into our safety forces, because it's our police department, our EMS, and our fire departments that are on the front line fighting the battle against opioids. And that was something that nobody was prepared for. We had no sober living houses or rooms in our community when this crisis started. We do today. Now we have to deal with a sober living house in the middle of a residential single family neighborhood. And a lot of the folks who own homes and live in those residential single family neighborhoods are concerned about a sober living house right next to them. So we are dealing with that right now through our zoning laws. And the next mayor and the next city council will continue to be challenged with dealing with these issues no matter what. The last thing that I would mention would be the pandemic. Here we had something that hadn't happened to this country since 1919, almost 100 years ago plus. And we had to deal with that. We had to roll up our sleeves. We made the best decisions at the time with the best information that we had available to us. But we survived all of this, and we will survive the next crisis as well. Because I guarantee you, no matter who became mayor, there are going to be future crises, and we have to band together to deal with these to make a stronger and better community.
So it amazes me, sitting here listening to you itemize these things, those were significant challenges, and which leads me to ask the following questions. So I know there were things that you wanted to get done, accomplishments that you wanted to do and plan for, but weren't able to. What are some of those?
Yeah, because of some of the challenges that I just mentioned, it really impacted the city's budget, and especially the recession. It was a slow and long recovery. In an economic downturn, we're the last local government, to feel the impacts, but we're also the last to recover. So one of the challenges we faced, and some of the things that I wasn't able to get done, is I wanted to grow and expand our safety forces. There was a point in time during the recession where our numbers in our police department dropped significantly. We just weren't hiring to replace retiring police officers. And so we have just now started to get back to the levels of pre-recession numbers in our police department. We're still not quite there yet. I think we're up to 62 right now, and we should be somewhere between 65 and even up to 68. We hit 68 one time when I was on council, and we just hover right around that 65-man police department. And I hope and pray that the next mayor will be able to get us back up to 65 where we need to be. Another thing that really kind of bothered me was, I'll go back to the aquatic center. This was in my first term of office. We were getting ready to build a new aquatic center in the middle of a recession. Not the best time to do that. So I tried to cut back on the cost of the aquatic center by vetoing it and trying to get the price to come down. Council overrode that veto because that's how the legislative process works. That's part of the checks and balances that exists in our government today, one branch over the other. And we were not able to do that in my administration. So we have been challenged with a very expensive aquatic center for the past 10 plus years. We've never made money. We're never going to make money on the aquatic center. So those are just a couple of examples. And I mentioned the recession once again with some of the abandoned houses that we had. We have torn down over 500 abandoned, blighted homes since I've been in office. And we needed to do that because our housing stock was getting so old. Now we're at the point where we need to replenish our housing stock. We need new housing in Marion. We've taken care of some of the worst. Now we need to replenish that with new workforce housing. You notice I didn't say low-income housing. I didn't say affordable housing. I said workforce housing. People that work here in our community should be able to buy a home and live in a home that their wages can support. Workforce housing. We need more of it in the next administration. And like so many communities across this state are grappling with workforce housing.
Wow. I'm just amazed. There's a huge amount of intent and desire and whatever, but sometimes you're just faced with challenges that you just can't do what you want to do. And that brings me to the last question is, in our system of government here in the United States, every time one administration comes to an end and then preparing for another one to begin in the beginning of the year, the executive is, whether it's a president or all the way down to mayor, is oftentimes referred to as a lame duck president, mayor, whatever. So I know you're very well aware of that. And what are some of the challenges with being that?
No, that's great. Sometimes I wish there was a better name than lame duck.
Yeah.
It sounds so disparaging. But no, I'm in the lame duck session right now. It's the period after an election. A new mayor has been elected, but the new mayor doesn't get sworn in until January 1st. So from election day until December 31st at midnight, I'm considered lame duck. And I'm in a situation now like I've never experienced in my professional life before. Everybody used to want to talk to the mayor, and now nobody wants to talk to a lame duck mayor. I used to have my days filled with meetings and events, and now I'm finding there's a lot of free time for a lame duck mayor. So I'm kind of grappling with this right now. But yes, you're right. I do understand how a lame duck session works. I'm very familiar with it. I'm a former social studies teacher. My job right now is to make sure I steer the ship and don't hit the iceberg. My job right now is to make decisions that have to be made, but also understand that some decisions should be deferred to the next administration. I don't want to hog-tie the next administration with some decision that I make. And I've already talked to Mayor-elect about that and told him that I will do my very best not to do that. I understand that he is the incoming mayor. And we're working very closely together. We've already had a couple of meetings. We've had numerous conversations. And I've even invited the mayor-elect to the next staff meeting on December the 6th so he can address them. And I believe he already knows most of the directors of the departments, but there may be a few new ones that he doesn't know as well because he has stepped away as an employee of the city of Marion for the past couple of years. But my goal is to make sure that I am available and accessible to the mayor if he needs and wants me. But I also recognize that there is a time to step back. That's what Jack Kellogg did for me when I came in. Jack didn't stick around. You don't stick your nose into things. You be respectful of the incoming mayor and the incoming administration, knowing that they're likely to do things differently than I did. I did it differently than my predecessor, and then the mayor-elect will undoubtedly do things differently than me. We're different people, we have different styles, we have different strengths, and we have different weaknesses. But I think something that we all have in common is we want to see Marion go upward. And if I took you to one level, I look for the mayor to take us to the next level.
Mr. Mayor, thank you very much for the 16 years that you and I have been together here. And folks, we thank you for joining in here and watching and listening and participating in that way. I'm your host again. My name is John Peterson. Thank you so much.